All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Varsity Tutors webinar. My name's Brian, and I'm going to start a little bit slow. One thing that we always notice with these webinars, hopefully seemed like people were waiting in the wings, kind of ready to get started here. So before we dive all the way into an agenda and everything, I just want to find out, where's everybody joining us from? I've got my trusty teammate Eric, who's Tucson, Eric. So we've got Arizona covered. I'm Brian. I'm here in Southern California, and interested to find out, where are people joining from? What grade are you in? Student versus parent? All those kind of things, so we kind of know what our crowd's about. Today we're going to talk about how to get straight A's and or close. It doesn't have to be just straight A's, but we're going to talk about kind of getting that dream grade point average. And so first, I want to kind of know, where are you from? Where are you at in school, and kind of where are you starting from? Kind of what's, you don't have to give your exact grade point average if you don't want, but kind of what's your goal. So before we get too deep into it, where's everybody joining from? Let's start with that. Well, and thanks, Eric, for getting the chat hopping. Always like when we've got some energy going in the chat room there. Let me take a look at what our agenda is going to be here. Let me move this all the way over so I can actually employ it here. The theme right now is you want to get an A, right? And I think every student, I'll introduce myself even a little bit more. So I've been working with Varsity Tutors for a long time, teaching test prep classes and writing test prep books and hiring teachers for another company and working with teachers for quite a bit. But also before that, I taught high school, and so I know pretty much every student wants to get an A, but where people start to fall off a little bit is, I don't know if it's worth the work, right? And that's one of the things we want to say here is it really worth the work to get an A? Like, I want to have fun. I want to have friends. I want to play video games after school. I want to be on a soccer team. There's some TV shows I like to watch. Is it really worth the time and effort it takes to get straight A's or get an A in this difficult class? Can I even do it? Am I even capable of getting an A in this class? And that kind of gets into, is it worth the work? Sometimes it's sort of like, hey, I'm just not sure that I could, so I could put in all this work, maybe I'm just not capable. Or, hey, isn't that just for the geeks? And I say that with love, having been one of those at one point or another. Like, hey, is it something that I can really do? Is it something that's only for other people who are good at school and all that? And I want to say, I've never seen a student who wasn't capable of an A or who didn't want to get an A. I think generally what happened was, somewhere along the way they realized it might not be worth the effort. The juice wasn't worth the squeeze, so to speak, or just it might not be what I can commit to for an entire semester. So I'm going to cut a couple corners here and there. The next thing hey, another C. What's going to happen there? So also we've got Benton, Arkansas. That's Walmart headquarters, right? So my grandmother's maiden name was Benton. You don't need to know that, but I've always kind of felt the kinship with the Walton family, hoping that they would give me some inheritance for that. But very cool. We've got Arkansas covered. Anybody else, the questions, if you're just joining now, I just want to see where everybody's coming from so we can see that. So what if I were to tell you that you can get A's, and maybe even more importantly, it's not as hard as you think. And I don't want to say that there's no work involved, that it's not hard at times, but what I want to talk about here, having taught high school, having graded papers, having worked with kids who wanted to get better grades, I want to give you a little bit of an insight into what's your teacher thinking. Your teacher wants to give you an A. We're going to talk about that in a second. So you can do it and kind of leverage the fact that your teacher wants to work to give you an A. You don't have to work as hard. Talk about how to make sure you're not spending every waking hour outside of school doing homework, studying, those kind of things. How can you be a well-balanced, middle school or high schooler and get those grades that you want? Cut some corners here and there. There's a little bit of a secret. I also, in addition to teaching high school, before that I was in college, and my roommate always said, I never see you study and yet you always get A's. And I always kind of smile, and he's like, I think you're a closet studier. I think you study when nobody's looking. And I had some some secret tricks of the trade along the way. If like, nah, I think I can get by with a couple of these techniques, learn what I need to, put in just the right amount of work I need to, be happy, have a good social life, kind of enjoy life that way, and still get A's. So here's the blueprint we're going to go through on this one. One, like I said, your teachers want you to get A's, and I think that's so important. No teacher goes into teaching saying, I'm doing this so that I can be a harsh grader. My entire purpose in life, even though it may seem like it sometimes, my entire purpose in life is to tell 13-year-olds, you're not worth it. You can't get it done, anything like that, right? So they want you to get an A. You just have to harness that a little bit. You have to be able to take that energy and like, how do I do well with that? So use their momentum. I hate to say against them. That's why that's in quotes. They're going to work with you, but it's sort of like jujitsu and a lot of the martial arts are like take your opponent's momentum and like harness it to get what you want out of it. You can do that with teachers, and so that's a little bit of a secret playbook that we want to make it into. We were saying anybody's late. You missed basically intros, so don't worry too much about it. People are chatting, want to know where everybody's from, so throw that into the chat for sure. And so yeah, throw that in. Let me know where you're from. But this is just the intro here. We're talking about how you can get straight A's or close to it without putting in so much crazy effort that it's just not worth it. Because that's where I think a lot of students stall is they think that it's going to be more work than it really is. So exactly, just in time for the good stuff. Here's another one is you can do a lot of homework before you get home. When I mentioned I had a roommate in college, you said like, I never see you study. It was sort of like, nah, because I study when you're not looking. I study once I'm back here, once people want to go have fun, I'm ready to do that because I take advantage of opportunities to do homework. And so that'll be pretty important. Awesome. We got DC in the house. We got a few time zones represented. So fantastic. And then there's always easier ways than you think. We're going to talk about some techniques of, I'm not saying sit behind the smart kid and look off their paper because that's not at all. We want to get A's honestly, just with a little bit less work. But what we do want to say is like, hey, if you make friends with the kid who's really good in that subject, then they're going to help you out. Like, people like to help their friends, and people like to talk about like, hey, the teacher mentioned this chapter a lot. You should probably study that. So we'll give you a preview of a little bit of that. There's always an easier way. You can leverage your friends. You can, use extra credit assignments. You don't need to be perfect on every test, perfect on every paper, put a ton of heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears into every homework assignment. What you can do is kind of leverage the resources around you. Get by not on the kindness of strangers, on the kindness of your teachers, on the kindness of your friends, on opportunities that schools have available for you. And you can do so much of it without having to work very hard. And that, I think, is at least lightens the load. I want to say no work. I want to say minimal work, and that'll be pretty helpful. So awesome. We got our DC connection here. What's funny is at first I saw that, what school do you go to? And I'm thinking like, what school do I go to now? And I realized that wasn't for me. So awesome. Some networking going on. Perfect. So here's something hugely important. Your teachers want you to get an A. And I'll lean on my experience as a high school teacher. Every kid that walked in that door, I wanted to get an A. I wanted them to, not just get the grade, but like learn the concepts. I taught history and economics. I wanted them to like the subject. I wanted them to learn about it and know it. I wanted them to get A's. And so here's a couple tricks of the trade, right? Your teacher's in an interesting situation, if you think about it, where they both judge you, they give you the grade, but they also, it's their job to help you get that grade. So in some ways, when they give you a grade, they're kind of judging themselves, right? They're kind of judging, was I helpful enough to help? Is it Jimena or Sabrina or Eric, I guess in this case? Was I good enough at this? Robin Hood, was I good enough to help Robin Hood master this subject? So a couple things that I found as a teacher, and I know a lot of my friends who are teachers found the same way. if kids are friendly, like, yeah, you want to grade based on the merits. I'll tell you this, right? You want to grade based on the merits of that paper they wrote, the test that's there, but so much of it's subjective, right? You've got the Scantron bubble. Hey, you picked A and it was C. I can't really help you there as the teacher. But if I like you and I know you've been working hard and you've been, asking questions, not even that I like you or don't like you, if I have a positive attitude toward you because I see that you have a positive attitude toward the class, then yeah, when I read, it's not even conscious that, hey, I like Robin Hood, I'm going to give him an A. It's, oh, cool, Robin Hood's paper. I really want to see how he did on this paper because I know, he was paying attention in class. He asked a couple good questions. When you go in with that mindset and you read it, you're probably going to see what you want to see. You kind of go to find that. And so if you're friendly to your teacher, just walk into class. Hey, good morning, Mr. Forrester. How was your weekend, Mr. Forrester? Little things like that just kind of mean that if you ask for help, your teacher's more likely to want to give it to you because, you've taken an interest in them. You've shown that you're an easy person to get along with. When they're reading your paper, they're hoping you got what they wanted out of it. And so they're more likely to give you a better grade that way. And so be friendly is huge. Say thank you, and things like good morning. Saying thank you. Eric, I know you've taught a little bit as well. Awesome. If you want to chime in with some of this, like anytime a student came to me at one point and said, hey, Mr. Galvin's my last name. Mr. Galvin, that was a really great lesson. Thank you for that. Or Mr. Galvin, I learned so much in today's class, something like that. As a teacher, know that your teachers, they get beat up a little bit. They wake up way earlier than you do. You think you get up early for school. They're there ready to go well before you are. They don't have the option to be tardy. Like they have to count the tardy. So they wake up super early. When you think you have homework, they're grading all of those papers and things. It's kind of a thankless job at times. You have no idea what it means to your teacher when you say, thank you, I learned a lot today. Thank you, that was a really fun lesson. Thank you. I'm gonna read a book on that this week. That book that you told us we only had to read one chapter. Do you mind if I read a couple more? I thought this was really interesting. If you do those kind of things, the teacher knows like you're interested, you care. When they grade your papers, they're looking for the right answers. They're gonna find if you're close, they're gonna say, I think she got it. I think she was on the right track there. I'm gonna give her credit for that, right? If you ask for help, they're going to be thrilled to give it to you, right? A lot of teachers give out their email addresses and say, if you got any questions, email me. Well, it's not that they play favorites. I don't want to say that at all. It's just that students who are more friendly, more grateful, all those kind of things, when they ask a question, it's like, you know what? Sabrina's really been working hard. She's such a nice kid, worked so hard in this class. She asked a little bit about, what was going to be on the test this week. I'm going to tell her what's on the test. Like, I really want to help her. So that your teachers are human. If you do these kind of things, they subconsciously, it's not necessarily conscious, sometimes conscious, subconsciously, they're going to round you up a little bit. When they have to make a judgment call, is this an A paper or a B paper? Is this close enough to the right answer? I give them credit, or is it not really the right answer? I mark it wrong. When it's subjective, they're human. If you're showing that you're putting in the effort, they're going to do that. Another one that I found was anytime a student asked me for extra credit opportunities and said, hey, Mr. Galvin, I know I struggled on that last test. It's been a busy week. It was homecoming, and then there was the big game that I played in, and my part-time job, whatever. The whole story of the students. I'd be like, hey, it's been hard for me, but I really want to make it up. Is there anything I can do for extra credit? If it was a student who really genuinely wanted to improve, I'd always kind of think like, yeah, what can I do for them, right? They've been working hard. I understand who they are. I'll come up with something, right? And so if you treat your teachers well, say please and thank you, say good morning, ask how their weekend was. Eric will always say that this is great. If you ask for help, they're going to give you a little bit more. When they're grading your paper, they're more likely to round you up a little bit. And if you ask for a little bit of extra credit, they're probably going to find something you can do for extra credit. Some extra paper you could write, an extra credit question, at the end of a test or something like that. And you can make hay on those extra credit things. I found in a way, Eric and I like working with Eric because he's just freakishly smart. I always got good grades, but I wasn't, people thought I was smarter than I was because I always had good grades. And I cleaned up on extra credit. Anytime I heard a teacher saying, if you want to do this for extra credit, you can. And it was just sort of like, okay, well, hey, I'm bored right now. I'm done with the test. Like, they give you 60 minutes for a test. It usually takes 40. Hey, I'm just sitting here. Really? There's an extra credit question? Cool, I'll do that, right? All I'm doing is sitting in class. Yeah, and I'll add up enough extra credit that my B becomes an A, that I get enough points off of that of, hey, if anybody wants to do this extra thing over the weekend that'll take 10 or 15 minutes, keep in mind that your teachers so often are really trying to give people who are about to fail, D's and E's, they're trying to give them just enough rope to climb themselves up to pass. If you're in that B range and you say like, well, I heard the word extra credit, can I do that? If you take advantage of those, your B can become an A really quickly. So a few things to know about your teachers. They want you to succeed. Take them up on that. They want to do you favors. And again, subconsciously, if you're just seen as a nice, friendly kid, then they're going to give you the benefit of a doubt. If you get rounded up when you're close, you get credit for answers that are half right, you get full credit. They give you extra credit opportunities and things. You can really take that to move up, from a B to a B plus to an A minus was kind of my bread and butter. Was like, if I get to around an 88% average in this class, 87% average, I don't need to know everything. I need to be on merit a high B. Then they're going to, I know my teachers well enough, there's going to be extra credit, I'll be nice and friendly, I'll do any participation points I'll always get, that'll round me up to the A. So I was the king of the B plus rounded up to the A minus. B is a 3-point on the grade point scale, A minus is a 4, and it was like, cool, I could do all that. So a couple other things to know about teachers. They reward effort in a big way. I've never met a teacher. I think the vast majority of teachers I know are inclined to, if you put in the effort, they're going to find a way to help you with that, right? There are some classes where they're not allowed to, right? If you go to, one of the top prep schools, Choate or one of those, or Harvard Westlake here, not that far from me in Los Angeles, some of these kind of well-known, college feeder schools where a third of their kids go to the Ivy League, they may not be allowed to. But most teachers, public school teachers that are, kind of in it for the love of the game, they really want to help, they're going to reward effort. So what does that mean? Write a little bit more, right? If you're having trouble on an essay question on a test, just keep writing. Keep trying to get close to the answer. They're going to see that effort and say, well, it's probably a C answer, but I'm going to round it to a B because they put in so much work, that kind of a thing. So if you write a little bit more, show your work or just show you're trying. So often, if you've got just show that you've been trying. You showed a lot of work and got close. They're going to, at least round you up as much as they can. So, Ryan, I like that point. Sometimes, like I said, they're not allowed to. Certain schools kind of have pretty strict, like, we're not allowed to do those kind of things. I think in most schools where I taught in a public school, it was, the goal was get as many kids as possible, give them every opportunity to pass. And what that allowed for the C plus B minus students was, I can move up a full grade by just taking advantage of some of those other opportunities. They want to be needed. I think this is really important to almost every teacher went into the business because they really felt they could make a difference. They really wanted to help kids. That the whole mission that they had. I went to University of Michigan School of Education teacher training program like 12 years ago, and I'm still in touch with a lot of friends there. What was so cool about it was we were all convinced we were going to change the world. One kid at a time, we were going to help, and just kind of bonded us all together. We're all still pretty close friends, and because of that, if somebody asks you, hey, can you help me out? What's going to be on the test tomorrow? If you ask those kind of questions, if I were going to study tonight, should I study this or should I study that? Which chapter would you spend the most time on? They can't help themselves. They're so happy to be asked. I don't want to say every teacher, but most teachers are going to err on the side of like, hey, if you're asking the question and you're a nice kid, yeah, I'll tell you. Like, yeah, the test's probably going to be a little bit more about chapter 3 than chapter 4. So remember, your teacher either wrote the test or knows exactly what's on the test. Maybe another teacher in the department wrote it. So if you ask them those kind of things, they know the answer already. They know what's on it tomorrow. tomorrow, and they'll spoon feed a little bit. I always found anytime we had department tests, so the whole department would give the same test, and anytime I kind of thought a question was like, nah, that's kind of unfair, I don't think that's that fair of a question, I would try to make sure I said that word or definition or term as many times as possible the day before a test so that it was fresh in people's minds. Teachers want to help you, and so, you know, if you give them a chance to feel valued and needed, then they're likely to help you. Now, if you've been a jerk all semester, you show up tardy, you're throwing spitballs, you know, whatever else, just, you know, acting a fool in class every day, and then you ask them, you know, hey, Mr. Forster, what's on the test tomorrow? They're going to see through that, so it kind of has to be part of your overall demeanor. But if you're, you know, friendly, kind of grateful, you don't have to be teacher's pet, you know, a total suck up. You can just be kind of, you know, wave hello, thank you, you know, good morning, things that aren't, you know, nobody's going to pick on you and say like, wow, you're really, you know, you must be totally in love with Mr. Forster because of what you're saying. If you just kind of, you know, normal friendliness and then ask for help, not favors, they're probably going to give it to you. And then the other big one too is teachers tend to really like the underdog. When I was in education school, none of the teachers were saying, you know what I really want to do? I want to go teach at the most elite private school in Connecticut, and I want to take all those A+ students and make them A++ students. Like, everybody's dream as a teacher was, you know what I'd really love to do? I'd love to go pick a city with underfunded schools, and I really want to help. I want to make a difference in, you know, kids' lives who need it. And so teachers go into teaching because they like the underdog. They really want to help, you know, kids who don't like a subject learn to like it. Kids who say, I can't do that, I'm not good at that, you know, make them feel like they really can. And so because of that, you know, if you're able to, you know, they want to help, I guess is the point there. Nothing's going to make them happier than if you go from a C to an A, and so give them that opportunity. So you don't have to put in a ton of work. They're going to help guide you toward where that work is. You're not totally alone. So so a couple people were talking about, we're not sure about an extra credit. Is it only once in a semester? So extra credit's one thing they can give you, and like I said, you know, depending on the leeway your teacher has, sometimes if you ask, they can make up something. They may not have a policy of it, but like, you know what, that's actually a good idea. Yesterday's test was really hard. If they don't have extra credit, usually there's a lot of other support, right? So there may be, you know, a teacher's plan period or their lunch break. They may, you know, say, hey, if you really want to work a little bit hard, do better in this class, come see me on B lunch, and we'll go through next week's paper for you. So if they can't give extra credit, usually they can give some kind of extra help to you. So it doesn't hurt to ask, and if they see that as kind of a genuine desire to better yourself, they're going to find some way. If it's not extra credit, it's extra help, it's some kind of support, it's a little bit of guidance in the right direction to be able to get you there. So and right, that's the thing, they just got rid of extra credit. So this is the first time I've given it's the first time I've given this presentation on YouTube. So I did it at a couple schools before, so hopefully they didn't get wind of that. Hopefully I'm not spilling the beans on everybody's secrets here. So let me ask you guys this. How much homework do you guys usually have like a night? Does anybody say they do a full hour of homework every night? Do people think you do more than an hour of homework every night? Does anybody say like, I don't usually do it every day, but over the weekend I'm busy? What's your homework load usually? Awesome. Cool to know where everybody's coming from too. Got some 8th grade, 7th grade. Those, I think you look back on them, they're fun years. I don't know if you guys love it right now, but well, a lot usually for math. Yeah, and actually the reason for that, Robin Hood, is math is one of those things repetition makes you better at. So like it's a necessary evil sometimes that just like you have to do it 20, 30 times before it starts to become like it's the repetition in math really helps. So don't blame your math teacher. It's not her fault. It's kind of what the subject is. So all right, 2 hours, Ryan. That's 2 hours a night. That's tricky. That's a decent amount. You know, that's a decent amount actually. Jonathan, man after my own heart. I love what you're saying there. So hey, Malia. Welcome. I've always found in junior high and high school, I could get by with pretty minimal homework at home, kind of like Malia's area of about 20 minutes. And here's why. I didn't take the whole hour on every test or quiz. And honestly, when you're done with, with a quiz, that the teacher gave you 30 minutes for, and you're done in 20, all they really want is for you to be quiet. Like, they just don't want you interrupting other students. They just kind of like that half hour for them that they gave you for a quiz, or an hour for a test or something like that. That's kind of nice quiet time for them. They get to grade some papers. They get to plan for their next hour, do whatever else is going on there. They don't really have much of a plan other than the test is going to take this much time. So when you're done with anything like that early, you've got the ability in most classes to just work on other homework. Turn in your test, and then, okay, I'm going to read for my next, this book I need to have read by next week. I'll read a chapter or two. I just got this homework in second hour, and I finished the quiz early in fourth hour. I'm going to do that. You can get a lot of work done when you're done with something early. Just be done there, and you don't have to take it home with you. And what I always found there was, how many people, when you're done with a test, your favorite thing to do, put your head down and get a little bit of sleep. That was my default for a lot of times. And then I started to realize, hey, I can put my head down. I'm not getting real sleep. I'm just kind of like zoning out for a little bit, or I can get some homework done, and then I don't have to deal with that tonight. Then I have all my life left to go, and so I can be done there. So that's pretty nice. When you've got time between classes, and if you've got, they give you, when I was in high school, we had 10 minutes between classes because we had a couple different buildings. But sometimes I'd have, one room next to the other. I'm there in 9 minutes. I look in the hallway. There's nobody I really want to talk to right now. So you duck into that class and you go, you know what? I'm going to study a little bit. It's second hour. I'm going to review. I didn't study a lot last night. I'm going to review everything, in this 9 minutes. Just like make sure everything's top of mind for my test in 2 hours, right? So, if you've got time between classes, or if you have a test in fourth hour, get to fourth hour as quick as possible. Most days between third and fourth hour, you like to go talk to this friend and see how they did, or kind of run down the hall and hit your locker and get a quick snack, whatever is in there. The days you've got a test, get to class right on time, and just know today is going to be the exception. There's going to be a lot of days to go talk to your best friend Justin, or the girl you have a crush on, Katie. Not to give you too much about my high school experience. But you have plenty of time. Like, that's available Thursday, Friday. Today's Wednesday, you got a test. Get to class a little bit early, and then you've got time then to review some notes or to finish a couple problems for your homework. Class never starts right on time, right? You've got teachers taking attendance or giving some kind of announcements. Somebody's coming in a little bit late, and the teacher has to remind them to take their hat off or spit out their gum or something like that. Usually you've got 10 minutes of dead time between when you get to a classroom and when class starts. You can use that time to review for the next test you've got, to do some homework and those kind of things. So let me just kind of look through some of the chat here, make sure. Awesome. Okay, if you're doing a musical, shouldn't you be singing or memorizing lines? But yeah, if you've got time, that's another big one too. I don't think I have up here is, between, if you've got an activity, right? Somebody mentioned soccer and basketball, right? It's like, okay, school ends, and then you've got a little bit of time before practice. School ends at 3, practice starts at 3:20 or something like that. Kind of like, I can at least review a couple things, get a couple problems done, get a head start on some kind of homework or something like that. And so yeah, if you're lucky in those cases. I don't know who has homeroom. When I was in junior high or middle school, we had homeroom, and it was just kind of a waste, honestly. It was like the first couple weeks of school, it was like announcements, like getting you used to your new schedule and what it was like to be a 7th grader or something like that. And for the rest of the year, it's just kind of that teacher just kind of had to tell us something to get the day going. Homeroom was a great opportunity to say, you know what, I only got to 2/3 of the homework last night. Rather than turn it in incomplete, I'm going to finish it now. Or hey, there's this book I need to read for Friday. It's Tuesday during homeroom. I'm going to read a little bit right now and get a little bit of a head start, right? If you've got recess, for me, recess was sacred, right? We had recess after lunch, and it was, actually we shouldn't have been playing tackle football, but we were playing tackle football in the fall. We were playing, throwing a baseball in the spring, just kind of like, every season, basketball. There was no way I was going to give up recess. But if it was raining and we, didn't get a chance to go outside, you could goof off a little bit, or it was kind of like, I'm going to get a bunch of stuff done, and then I don't have to worry about it later, right? On the bus, if you've got time on, your commute, whatever it is, in a carpool, something like that, you can read something, kind of review for what's going on in the test that day. The point is, there's so much downtime to be able to get a few things done ahead of time that, you don't have to do a 2-hour block of homework when you get home. You can kind of steal 45 minutes or so in different little chunks of the day to get certain things done, and then you've been a model student. You haven't given up a minute of free time, right? You haven't given up. Kids still playing Fortnite. Derek was making fun of my movie references. Fortnite's still a thing, right? You haven't given away a minute of Fortnite time, of Netflix time, of Snapchat or Instagram time. Like, you haven't given up any of that. All you've given up is downtime at school, and it doesn't mean you have to do that every day. It doesn't mean that every day is going to be stressful. What it means is, you got a test coming up. There's places you can buy a couple, just a couple blocks of 3 to 5 minutes to review some keywords and terms, the stuff that you want to have top of mind. You just studied a lot, and Fortnite is dead. Oh man, well, good, because I still haven't learned how to floss yet. So I was going to try that, but now you guys don't care. So I don't have to floss dance. So Eric, you lose the bet on that one, man. So let me pause right quick. Any questions on this? Do you guys see? Actually, any questions? Do you guys see these opportunities? Everybody kind of nodding your head, going like, "Oh, actually, yeah, I could use some of that time," or "Yeah, actually, I do a lot of that, and I find it really helpful." Or is anybody looking at this just saying like, "Nope, my day's packed full. I can't find any of that time." So, well, the camera only goes to a certain, you wouldn't be able to see the arms. Like, I could be doing it right now, and you have no idea where the arms are going. So hopefully you don't. So is this helpful so far? So there's I find there's definitely downtime when you get to be able, when you notice it. There's plenty of downtime you're able to work. So. Cool. And thanks everybody for the intros. This is just cool to see where everybody's coming from. So, whoops, I went a little bit there. Here's one other that's just kind of always, let me make sure I didn't skip one. Okay, cool. The button gets a little jumpy on me sometimes. Here's another one. There's always an easier way to get things done. We hit a couple of those. Ryan said homeroom's 10 minutes, and yeah, you can get a few things done in that, right? If you've got a test in, later that day, you can study a little bit of those, just review notes or something like that. You're not going to write a full paper, right? Or if you had, multiple choice kind of a thing that you put a little time into last night, but it's like, soccer practice went late, and then this happened. I can catch up over homeroom. I always kind of found that or another one for me, I wasn't on the other slide, was I like to get to school early when I was driving myself, when I was later on in high school, because I always wanted to have an easy place to park, and a lot of times it was raining, so it's like, okay, I'll just get there 20 minutes early, get my parking spot, come see some of my friends. But hey, if there's a test that day, I'm going to use that time there. So you can use that. Homeroom time's great. Study hall, Sabrina mentioned, that's awesome. Wow, Avi's got 2 minutes between classes. So yeah, that's crazy. Wow, I've never seen it that short. So cool. So hopefully there's some other downtime in there, lunchtime, time on the bus or in a carpool or something like that. So everybody's going to be a little bit different. But yeah, if you kind of, the point being, fine. Yeah, that's pretty wild, man. I'm feeling like relieved about my experience there. So. Cool. Awesome. All right. There's also, there's plenty of easier ways. Has anybody ever thought about something like this? Let me even get to this one here. I think everybody knows I don't want to say who the smart kid is, because everybody could be smart, and people learn at different rates and all those, but you kind of know like who's there. I always found one of the things I could definitely get A's on was I would just offer to do the grunt work during a group project. I would find like, hey, these kids are pretty smart. Oh, we need 5 people in a group. I'm gonna come over here. What do you guys? Can I get in your group? Right? There'd be 1 or 2 really smart kids that were always really good friends with each other, and it was kind of like, I can do this project with my friends, but I'm struggling in this class a little bit, or I can with my best friends. Everybody was friends, right? Or hey, let me see what these guys are up to. Let me see what this group is doing. And then there it was kind of like, hey, what's my value add? Oh, you guys are going to do all this? Cool. I'll do the cover page. I'll make sure that I'll print it. You guys do the work. Just email it to me. I'll print it. Any of those kind of grunt work type tasks, collating the pages, doing the bibliography, right? It's just kind of like, hey, I'll do the bibliography. Nobody wants to do the bibliography, but it's not hard. It's just annoying. Whereas some of the other, like having to get the A type work, I could be in a group where somebody else would do that work. I would do the kind of like annoying little things, but then we all get the same group grade, right? And so sometimes just aligning yourself with the right people. Eric and I work at the same company. I think we would say that's true in your future as well. It's like sometimes just being in the right group can make you look really good. That's why I like doing these kind of projects with Eric on my team. Like, actually, he can make me look good in the chat there. So, those kind of things. And then if you're able to find people who are pretty good, who get A's, who kind of get those subjects, then you've got those friends that you can work with a little bit. One other nice thing of spending a little bit of time with the kids who are really good in those subjects is even if you don't have 2, 3, 4 hours to study, even if you weren't able to finish the whole book as thoroughly as you wanted to or anything like that, somebody did. And if you're tight with them, if you're friends with them, and you kind of ask like, hey, I didn't quite finish the book. Can you tell me like what was the ending of that, or what was the most important chapter, or hey, I didn't get fully studying last night. What do you think the 3 most important things to know for the test are right now? If you've got friends that did all that work, they're going to tell you in those kind of things. We had a pretty big, when I was, I think a sophomore in high school in a chemistry class, there was a big hallway meeting every morning among a bunch of us where a couple of us were pretty good in chemistry, a couple people were good in something else. Actually, I was struggling a little bit in chemistry, but man, people would just kind of go through and share notes on the homework and say like, oh yeah, this was pretty tricky. Here's what I did, and the answer was this. And it's like, okay, well, cool. And actually, here's where it's not cheating is you're learning because you're spending time mentoring each other through it. The more that you have, you can get a well-rounded group of friends. Some people are good at this, some people are good at that, and kind of, study together, share notes. It doesn't have to be all go to the same library after school. You can just say, hey, we're gonna share first thing in the morning. We're gonna get together and do that kind of thing. So, well, I see some honors students in here. Awesome. Oh no, Avi, that's where the grunt work friend, the reliable grunt worker is so useful in these things. That you can kind of establish that reputation of send it to me, I'll make sure it all gets done. Wow, I feel awful for you. That's pretty terrible. So. Yeah, Ryan, the kid that gets a 96 in every class, I hear you. That's and it's hopefully in a lot of cases you're the smart guy. I don't want to say we're not cheating. I want to make that very clear. But kind of like being in the group with kids who are high achievers, they're going to help you out. You're going to learn a lot from them. And if your value add is, hey, I'm going to do the grunt work, you kind of get credit for everybody's work there, and it's kind of a useful skill. You find a group of friends that's willing to talk about what the homework was like. And all that kind of thing. Mentioned extra credit, of course, and then here's another one that partial credit was one thing. I was kind of considered myself the king of partial credit. That if I didn't know the answer, I was going to get something, right? And a couple ways this can go is like on an essay question, right? If you have to, if it's not multiple choice, you have to kind of write an essay question in English and in history in one of those. I knew my teacher's favorite phrases, right? I knew that, my history teacher, Mr. Beeman, anytime he was talking about a war, would say, and then, the Union Army was standing there mowing them down like sheaves of wheat was his catchphrase for any battle was, this army mowed down the other army like sheaves of wheat. And so I kind of knew like, hey, I'm not really sure who won the Battle of Bull Run, but I'm going to talk about how whoever did it mowed them down like sheaves of wheat. And he's going to see stuff that he knows I was paying attention in class, just didn't quite get all the details. You can get a little bit of partial credit there. So know what kind of things your teachers like to hear said, and do that. If you know part of an answer, really explain that and get kind of partial credit. You don't have to be perfect. Again, I would say your best strategy at all is shoot for the B+ and hope to get rounded to the A-. But you can get a lot of work by being close, by being almost entirely right, and then getting the benefit of a doubt because you've showed that you care, you're invested in your education, you're a good group partner, and so your classmates value you. If you get close and you have all those other things going for you, you tend to do pretty well. So let me pause for a second. I'm loving this chat, actually. I feel bad. I'm like talking into the camera. I'm kind of missing some of the chat here. Do you guys have any other suggestions? What are things you've done where you kind of realize, like, I probably didn't deserve an A in that class, but I got one, and here's how. Does anybody have any stories like that? So this is me demonstrating how there's always an easier way. This is me studying with my new friends who are good at this kind of stuff. What other kinds of things have people done to be able to say, like, yeah, I kind of worked the system a little bit there, but I was able to get credit for it? Does anybody have anything? And Ryan said, I don't even know how I'm in advanced English. There's a way, there's a reason, right? Probably, probably some combination of a lot of these things, and you're probably pretty good at it, honestly. So that helps. But yeah, if anybody's got any others, throw those into the chat and just kind of we'll share there. Again, the goal is to always do your best, but there's ways to work the system, right? They give you group projects because part of what they're teaching there is, are you able to work in groups? Like, that's something that the school district, the school, they care about. And so, hey, take advantage of the fact that, like, I'm a good teammate even if I'm not the best chemist or physicist or historian in the class. I'm a pretty good teammate, and so I'm going to get some of my credit that way, and that's pretty helpful as well. So cool. Sabrina just works pretty hard. And I think you probably get the benefit of a doubt from teachers and things there, and that's just like, that's awesome. His work ethic will get you extremely far. I think, that's kind of how you get into there. Awesome, Sabrina. Things like Grammarly. Yeah, there's so many tools out there now that can kind of help you make sure. That's another one where, if even just whatever you're using, whether it's Google Docs or Word or something like that, when you're typing up a paper, there's a thesaurus function on that a lot. They green underline it for you to if your grammar's a little bit wrong. It probably raises the bar for you a little bit above, like you have to, like, it kind of looks sloppy if you don't have spelling at least pretty well covered, grammar at least a little well covered, and all that. The thesaurus function is great for if you kind of realize as you're scanning it, like, wow, I use the same word, I use also over and over again. Thesaurus, I throw it in additionally in there, similarly, something like that. It looks a little bit better written, so there's some tools to be able to do that kind of thing. So, cool. Nice. Right, we got to get that 4 hours down for you, man. I'm hurting for you on that. But I like that you're putting in that effort. And that's going to kind of get us toward the big lesson here, and kind of to the back. Like, a lot of people kind of look at, hey, I don't know that I'm capable of getting straight A's. I don't know how if that's really in the cards for me, if that's really possible. This lesson, I think, is huge. There's a bunch of quotes that are kind of similar to it online. I was trying to attribute it to somebody. The two, I think, I like you saying is the easiest. The easiest things to control are your effort and your attitude. Now, your effort doesn't mean that you have to spend 3, 4, 5 hours every night on homework at all. It's being a little bit smart about where to use your effort, right? It's like, you know what? All I'm going to do is sit here on the bus. I might as well review my notes while I'm on the bus. And nothing really happens in homeroom. I'm going to do a little bit of work there. You can control when you apply that effort and be a little bit smarter with it. It's that work smarter, not just harder. But you can control your effort. If teachers see that, they like that, they will find a way to reward you. They will give you opportunities, whether it's extra credit, a little bit of extra mentoring, a nudge on, hey, you should probably study this for the exam on Friday. Not so much of that. They're going to help you out a little bit there. And then attitude is so huge. Every teacher loves a kid who's friendly, who's trying to learn, who's a good teammate in group projects, who's willing to, kind of like, give the sign when, class is about to start. One of my favorite students of all time was this kid, Darius, who could always just tell. He was a bit of a troublemaker, but anytime he could tell, like, hey, Mr. Galvin's ready to get class going, he would just smack his desk and go, hey, Mr. Galvin's got something to say. And it was just that little bit of attitude that it was like, hey, he's going to clown around here and here, but when it's time to get class started, he's going to, use his popularity in the class to help me out. And it's like, you know what? That kid gets the benefit of a doubt. He's busy. Hey, make sure you study chapter 3 tomorrow. Make sure you study this portion tomorrow. Remember that thing we did on Tuesday? That's going to be on the test. You better know that. Like any little bit of extra I could do to try to steer him in the right direction, I was ready to do. So if you control those things, kind of make sure teachers know you're trying, you kind of have that upbeat attitude about learning, you'll get rewarded for that pretty well. So, I think Eric's got this. We got a good discussion on nice, yeah. Actually, that's, I think the quote, if I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter, is I think, it's like Mark, I think it's actually attributed to Mark Twain, but like, it's not his, it's somebody else's. Eric probably knows, but like, it's like the editing process is actually like, that's where you put the time. Yeah, get something out there. Another one I've found sometimes is if I don't have a bunch of support, like 4 or 5 support paragraphs, I need a 6-paragraph essay, but at least if I just get started with something, like, okay, here's one paragraph that's going to support it, at least getting getting over writer's block sometimes is the biggest thing, of just get something down to prove to yourself that you can do it, and then, as you're going, you'll figure something out. So, cool. That's awesome advice. Nice. Cool. And then I think this will kind of take us toward the finish line. So I've got it up here, right? Next steps and action items. What kind of things can you do this week? Tomorrow, say good morning to one of your teachers. Make their day. Just, good afternoon's a little, I don't know, I think it's a weirder thing to say. Good morning. Everybody says good afternoon. Might be a little too like British aristocracy, but try it. But say good morning or hello to one of your teachers. Say something nice to one of your straight A classmates that you just don't really talk to all that often, but, kind of like, hey, saw you did pretty well on that test, or, yeah, it's lame. I like your backpack. That's a terrible one, but something nice. You'll come up with something. You guys are clever there, but just kind of like, branch out a little bit from your friend group, kind of incorporate 1 or 2 people who are really good in science, really good in English, something like that. So you kind of have a little bit more of a network of people who can kind of help you for, hey, it's going to be a hard test tomorrow, but, I think there's going to be a lot of this chapter on it and all that kind of thing. Ask them on extra credit. And a couple people said you don't know if that's available in your school. You might even want to ask, like, hey, I'm doing pretty well this semester, but any chance there's extra credit opportunities so I can get a little bit ahead, or I can catch up for, that last test was a little bit hard. Just ask. It never hurts to ask, because even if the answer is no, that teacher knows you care, and that teacher knows you're trying, and that goes a long way. You've planted that seed in their mind that, hey, Sabrina is a hard worker. Avi is a hard worker. Robin Hood is a hard worker. They care. They want to do well in this class, and that's great. And then another immediate next step for more tips like this. We're going to be doing a lot of these. Hit the like button on this video and subscribe to this channel. We've got a lot of great Varsity Tutors YouTube content. Eric and I, along with a couple other people, are part of the YouTube team and really committed to making sure that we use this as an opportunity, a venue to help people out. So make sure that you like and subscribe, and we'll see you back with some more content here. So I didn't mean to leave you off. Of course, you're a hard worker. So awesome. Thank you for chiming in and making sure I didn't forget anybody else. My chat window, I keep the chat really big. I'd forgotten a couple names there. So I'll say this: you guys are all hard workers. I probably don't need to tell this group that, because you guys took the time out of your Wednesday afternoon, evening, to seek out some study tips, some ways to get a better grade. So huge, I'd clap, but it's probably weird in the microphone, but huge applause to you guys for taking such an interest in striving and doing well in education. Like the teacher in me, you're not gonna see me floss because Fortnite is dead. You're not gonna see me cry, but I do really value that. I'm glad you guys are putting all that kind of hard work in there. So awesome. Glad this was helpful. And yeah, make sure you like and subscribe. Best of luck this semester. Throw any extra questions in the chat, and Eric and I can get to them when we wrap up. But thanks, everybody. This was a whole lot of fun. So thanks, it's good to hear that again, man. My teacher heart. I love hearing Mr. Galvin. So thanks, everybody, and yeah, I hope this is a phenomenal semester for you guys. So good luck.